This is Lewis Brackpool for Rebel News, and as you know, I'm here in Davos, right in the globalists' backyard, to expose the WEF. So, let's get into it. The World Economic Forum is a conglomerate of the world's elite who meet annually to discuss world issues. From political leaders to entertainers, their influence directly impacts the forming of legislation and the narrative soaked through the screens in our home.
The future is not just happening. The future is built by us.
To learn more about the WEF and their plans, head to exposethereset.com to watch our docu-series on the Great Reset. And to support me in Davos, and maybe you want to buy me lunch, head on over to wefreports.com. Here to discuss preparing for the next pandemic, we have a woman named Helen Clark.
Next crisis is already waiting for us around the corner.
Who is the ex-Prime Minister of New Zealand, and in 2020 she was appointed as co-chair on a panel reviewing the World Health Organization's handling of the COVID-19 pandemic.
This one needs to be done now. Seize the momentum while the leaders of the world are focused on this, focused on what could we do to stop it next time. Get these important building blocks in place.
We have Paul Kagame, the president of Rwanda, Peter Sands, the executive director of Global Fund. We also have Francis de Souza, the president of a company called Illumina. They provide technology to analyze genetic variations. And last but not least, you guessed it, Bill Gates is here to discuss it.
We need all the leading companies to come into First Movers, and then we have to fund projects starting actually literally this year.
So let's break down a bit about what some of them have already been up to. So let's start with Helen. As I've already mentioned, she was the ex-Prime Minister of New Zealand, and in 2020 she was appointed as a co-chair on the independent panel for pandemic preparedness and response. She has also been accused of having close ties with China. The United Nations Watch Hillel Neuer sent a letter saying, "Dear Ms. Clark, UN Watch respectfully requests that you recuse yourself as co-chair of the WHO inquiry into the origin of and global response to the coronavirus pandemic." Though WHO Chief Dr. Tedros has lauded you as an independent leader who is singularly qualified to head this investigation, your extensive record of partisan statements defending the WHO, as well as your close ties with the Chinese government, gives rise to the appearance of bias, which, under international law, are grounds for recusal. Various accusations include, in 2016, she was supposedly described as a good friend of the Beijing regime when President Xi Jinping pledged to support her bid for the position of UN Secretary General.
The Secretary General will need to look to the organisational effectiveness of the UN. We can be a clunky, old-fashioned style administration, and I think it's really important that we are equipped to be the proactive organisation that the member states are looking for.
We all know that the WHO is in China's back pocket. It's pretty obvious by now. Paul Kagame, the president of Rwanda, what's his role in this? You only need to go back to earlier this year to see how he was tackling the pandemic, where he was forcibly vaccinating people for COVID against their will.
Technology can provide solutions for, and that's the reason we prioritized investments in technology and infrastructure that support that.
Many Rwandan citizens have reported that they have been forced to the ground by police officers and even the army to be vaccinated against their will. Sounds like a charming fella. Even more suspicious, however, is that he wrote an opinion piece for CNN with none other than Bill Gates, titled Every vaccine is a shot of adrenaline into the heart of the African economy. Peter Sands is another panelist who is the executive director of the Global Fund, and since 2002, the Global Fund has been a partner with, of course, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and to this day it receives various donations from some of the largest pharmaceutical companies. And from Bill Gates, they received a whopping $2.74 billion in contributions since it began. A friendly gesture? Or is it a long-term financial gain for when another pandemic arises?
Next crisis is already waiting for us around the corner.
And finally, William Gates, otherwise known as Bill Gates. He is the biggest owner of farmland in the United States, if you didn't know that already. And I wonder why.
These farmers have been working their small farms and gradually improving their yields to feed their families and escape poverty. But
he also invested in smallpox vaccines back in November 2021, and then warned of a smallpox terror attack, or terror attacks, in the upcoming year or so. What a coincidence. The baby formula shortage has reached worrying levels in the United States. But don't worry, back in 2020, a company called Biomilk was started up to produce artificial human breast milk from human mammary and be commercially available to consumers. The company received $3.5 million from a fund that was co-founded by big US businessmen. What a coincidence. And remember, this is the same person who is strangely obsessed with excrement. Take a look at this.
this is a container of human feces.
They smell terrible.
Bizarre indeed. So let me ask you something. Are these the sort of people that you would trust to handle a pandemic or any upcoming pandemics? You tell me. So this has been Lewis Brackpool reporting in Davos for Rebel News. Myself and Kian Simone over at Rebel News have been working tirelessly on a docu-series about the Great Reset. You can watch the trailers and episode 1 over at exposethereset.com. And if you are enjoying these reports here in Davos, right in the backyard of these globalists, please visit wefreports.com, give what you can, and continue to see all the reports that the other journalists and myself have been reporting. Thank you.